So you're thinking, maybe, possibly getting a drone, not sure. Where do you start? Well, there's two big areas that fit hand in hand that'll help you decide what you should go out and get. Number one is the regulations, and number two, what do you want to do with the drone? If it's just recreation and hobby, okay, probably a basic pilot's license. And then you could, or if you want to get into something even more and make it more commercial, you can get into the advanced license. But read through this website with Transport Canada to find out all the regulations on drones. But there is one other option. You can get a micro drone like this one, a DJI Mavic Mini, no license required, and you can still capture all the things like you've seen me capture. I've captured a lot of different things in a lot of different places, and I have fun with it. So if that's what you want to do, that might be the right way to go. Here's Garrett, and he'll tell you his perspective on it too before we get into how to fly your drone for the first time. Take it away, Garrett.
Oh, hey everybody. I'm Garrett with Diary of a Family and RV Media Creators. Today, Kent wanted me to talk about reasons why you should get a drone. So I'll go over some of my reasons and then give you guys some questions that you should really be asking yourselves before you make a large purchase. Now, a little bit about us. We're a travel family. We've been on the road for about 2.5 years, and we have been documenting our trip with this Mavic Pro Platinum for the majority of that time. And at the time, we spent about $1,200 on the drone, and it has been a great investment. Minus that time we crashed it into an island on a tree, but that's another story. But for us, we wanted to capture the amazing landscapes, the beauty that we were experiencing while we were traveling on the road. And we wanted to make sure to share that in the best way we know how. Now, before you go out and you make this large purchase of a drone, ask yourself, why do I need to buy this drone? What is the purpose I have for making this large purchase? Because if you're just going to buy it being like, oh, this is a cool gadget, then maybe it's not the right purchase for you. Now, also, depending on what you're wanting to do with the drone, you might have to have a commercial license. So if you're making a lot of money off of a drone video on YouTube, you might have to have your FAA Part 107. Now, if you're in Canada, the rules are definitely different, but there are still a lot of commercial purposes that you have to have a commercial license. So understanding how that works so that if you're flying a drone, you're not going to get yourself in trouble. Now, they have these really ultra small drones like what Kent has that don't require a license because of the size. But if you have a drone like even my size, this, if I were to use it commercially, I would have to get a license, which my wife has been nagging me that I probably should be getting anyways. So we've really enjoyed it, and we encourage other people to get out there and experience life and to be able to tell their story in the best way possible. Hopefully this video was helpful in helping you decide whether it's the right decision for you to get a drone.
So once you've gone to the Transport Canada website, you can look at the regulations for a mini drone. Here you go. You can look at the regulations for the basic or the advanced. Here you go. And now you'll know what type of drone you should probably look at and what your regulations are, so that you know that you're doing it well. Okay, so we've talked about regulation. We've talked about what to consider when you buy a drone. Now let's consider how to fly a drone. The three big things I look at when I go to fly my drone is number one, wind. And I got more to say on that in a minute. Number two, trees. And number three, wires, like the hydro wires, any other kind of cabling that goes up in the air that are very thin and very difficult to see and are not forgiving. So those are the three that I look for. Trees, they don't jump out and grab you, so if you have good control of your drone, the closer you can get to them. All right, so let's talk about wind. If you're going to fly a small micro drone, wind is one of your enemies. But there's still things you can do to still have a good flight in spite of some gusts and some wind. You have to determine whether it's too much. So one thing you can do is when you go to fly your drone, fly into the wind so that it needs to come back with the wind to come back to you. If you get into trouble and the wind picks up, bring your drone lower, as it will probably have less wind grabbing it. Another point is if the wind all of a sudden picks up, change the settings to sport mode so it can fly faster. Also to consider, don't leave it till the end of your battery life to try and fight the wind to get back to you, because you won't have the power of reserve to maneuver more. So always make sure those things are determined if you're going to fly with wind. And have your find your drone switched on. Okay, so what I do is I just avoid wind most of the time. I avoid trees, and I'm getting a little bit more friendly with trees, even though I crashed a Phantom 4 when I was in Arizona into the tree, and that ended the life of that because the camera separated from the unit, and I, even trying to fix it, didn't get a great repair done, and so it wasn't going to be back in sky ready. So what do you need to do for your very first flight? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, take away all your expectations. All you want to do with your first flight is connect, make sure everything turns on correctly, everything connects correctly, and fly it up 10, 20 feet and bring it back down and land. That's your first flight. And that you want to be successful at. And then you can do that again and again and again. And take away, like I said, the expectations of, oh, I need to get good footage, I need to get good control, all those things. Take that all away and just get a few good, successful, complete flights in. Now with the DJI technology and the drones that have that kind of technology, taking off and landing are simple. Also, hovering in one spot and not needing to adjust anything is simple. So that's why I suggest get into a drone that has those kinds of technologies. Because the cheaper drones and the drones from a few years ago, yes, you could take off, but you had to also adjust them completely or they would just drift away. But not anymore, not with GPS technology. So let's get to it. We're in a parking lot. There is a lot of space around. There's no people to be interrupting us. And I'm going to go and show you a first flight for a drone, from setup to fly to land and to disassemble. It's pretty simple. Now I have to remember when I'm flying a drone, the reason I don't go up higher than 120 meters most of the time is because I'm sharing the airspace with those airplanes. And with those airplanes. And because I'm sharing the airspace, that's why I have to be very, cautious to make sure I'm not encroaching into their airspace, because they don't have the option of seeing me before it's too late. I always get a little excited when I'm going to fly my drone, because then I become a pilot. So the one thing you do before you leave to go fly your drone for the very first time is download the DJI app, get that set up with a profile, and then you're ready to connect it to your aircraft. Now I did that a long time ago, so I'm not sure exactly what I had to do the very first time, but let's say everything's connected and you're ready to actually fly it like I am. I'll show you the setup and takedown procedure just to fly your drone. All right, first thing I do is I set my phone to airplane mode because I don't want it to be communicating with the internet or anything while I'm doing this flight. So I do that first. Number two, I pull out my drone, get it out and open and ready to fly. It's pretty simple to set it up. Unfold the legs, the arms, and then turn it on. It's turned on. All right. And that little tone tells me that it's on and starting to function. And then I set up my controller, pull out the little sticks, attach them, and then I use my phone to connect to the controller. And that is one thing you have to remember, that DJI, with these kinds of drones, you have to use a phone that's compatible with it. I think most phones are. There you go. I'm looking at a picture from the drone, so it's working good. And it starts off in program mode. So I'm going to take off. It's just a simple of a press and hold button. And I'm flying. Okay? And I'm also recording. So my drone is in the air, it's flying, I'm not touching any controls, and that's how simple it is to take off with a drone. So I'm gonna land this drone. It has collision avoidance below the drone, so it will actually only land if you override that and put it into landing mode. There, that was a successful drone flight. That's what you want to get under your belt a few times to say, that wasn't too hard. You don't have to touch any controllers and it will still stay right with you. So let's go for flight number 2. No, take off. Beautiful. There you go. Now I'm looking at the coastline, which is all the ice and snow. I see myself, and I'm going to bring it back home. Go up a little bit. Now, a lot of people will put down a pad because if you land into dust and dirt, it will kick up into those motors. So lots of times I land onto my hand. So that's it, guys. Flight successful. So get your first flight done, your second flight also. Take the pressure off, guys. Learn all of the settings like P mode, sport mode, cinema mode, the camera mode settings as you go. Don't try and set everything up before your very first flight or you'll put too much pressure on yourself. I did meet a couple in the spring that had the same drone. They'd flown it once. And I said, all right, go out into that field, go onto the picnic table, fly it a couple times. Make sure you get some practice. When they left the campground in Drumheller, they said they've flown it 4 times now. That was awesome. So that's how you get experience, and then you start to fiddle with the controls, and then you start to get more comfortable with it, and the setup and takedown process is simple and becomes simpler and does not become such a stressful moment. And then make sure that if you're going to go flying and there's too much wind or you're not sure or comfortable or there's too many people around, don't do it. Just say another time. I just out here to have fun. Hope you are too. Thanks, guys. I'm Kent from Living Light RV. Hope you're grabbing life by the tail. I'm out here grabbing life by the tail, and we'll see you next week.